Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. And I hope you are all ready for an interesting evening tonight, which was one that was a request from the last live. Welcome to you as you've just joined on. I hope you are ready for an interesting evening, because tonight we are going to look at some of the cryptids of India, which I think is going to be an interesting one. So, hello to you all. Gukon Davijitu, welcome. And yeah, the temperature has dropped rather dramatically, and it is freezing cold, so I hope that you have a hot cup of coffee and are warmly bundled, because it is definitely a chilly evening. But welcome nevertheless. And we shall start, as we always do, with just a reminder that the one rule that we have is that don't be rude. You can have any opinion you like, you can agree, you can disagree, but if you are rude, we give you the boot. That said, we are very much in approval of as many comments as possible, and the cat has decided to come and sit on me, but she's been playing outside and is wet. Thank you, cat. Nothing like having a cat to come and warm herself on you when she's freezing cold and damp. Goodness gracious me. The joys that we have to live with felines. She likes to play outside but doesn't like the cold. That said, let's try this again. Welcome to all. Do like, share, subscribe, do all of the comments and more. Welcome especially to Snowflake. Glad to see you back. Hope you are surviving greatly the cold. How is it down by you? Where I am in the mountains, it's definitely dropping to sub-zero. So, yeah, it's definitely a chilly. That is just not fair. I live in Africa because it's hot, and what is the temperature now? I'm going to quickly check it for us. What does it say that it's making us suffer at? It doesn't at the moment. Why does it not tell us? Normally it tells me. But yeah, it dropped down to around 3 degrees. Is ek Afrikaans? Nee, ek is nie Afrikaans nie, maar ek kan Afrikaans praat as 'n mens wil. Yeah, MJ, I know that you are in Africa, but I was wondering if up your side the cold had hit. It's definitely hit down my side. So, at least Joburg is a little warm. I am far from Joburg, and dear, but I think the cold's coming across for you, so brace a little bit. But yes, just like MJ, I am also South African. So if you do feel the need to prefer to speak in Afrikaans, that's okay. We will translate for everybody else. We do have quite a few different people that join us on the channel from all over, not all of whom speak Afrikaans, many different countries, cultures and religions, which is pretty cool. But with that said, in our last live, it was asked of us that the next place we check out is India. Now, as you know, it is our habit to bounce around the world to different countries and cultures and see what strange and interesting things might be there. And our current topic is shapeshifters. And we did a whole thing on werewolves, which was pretty cool, I've got to say. But of course, that led on to the fact that you don't get werewolves in every place. Sometimes you get other weird creatures. And today we're doing India, mostly their shapeshifters, but a couple of the other cryptids as well, if time permits. And there are some pretty good ones, which I do find is rather interesting. So we shall begin with the first, which I think you might be somewhat familiar with. The very, very first one is the famous Naga. And for those of you who are not fond of snakes, you will not like this one, because usually shown in cobra form, but definitely a snake shapeshifter. Some consider them to be semi-divine. Others say they are more spiritual but not divine. It depends on the viewpoint. But nevertheless, let us have a quick peek at that. So, in various Asian religious traditions, and as we know there are a few, you get the Naga, which appears to come right back from Sanskrit times, which is pretty old. They are half human and half snake, and they reside in the netherworld, what is known as Patala. But they can also take fully human form or fully snake form. They are related, apparently, to dragons and to water spirits. And this is something that we've started to note. Interestingly enough, a lot of different countries and cultures consider shapeshifters to be water spirits for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but nevertheless, it's an interesting observation. A female Naga is called a Nagin or a Nagini, which simply differentiates them from the male, I suppose. According to legend, they are the children of the sage Kashyapa and Kadru. There are religious rituals devoted to these supernatural beings, and they've been taking place in South Asia for at least 2,000 years, which is pretty impressive in that regard. They're principally depicted in three forms: either an entirely human person, possibly with snakes for hair, which gives us the idea again of the Greek Medusa or Gorgon, which is quite interesting. Either that or as half human, half snake, or just a human that you can't tell the difference thereof, which is perhaps also quite important. Now, they seem to turn up in both Hinduism and Buddhism, so they've gotten around, which again, usually when you have mythological or cryptological creatures, they belong to only one sort of connection. But it seems that these ones are believed across the board. Now, this is very interesting because not only does it fall into India alone, but a number of the South Asian and the Southeast Asian cultures believe in them. And this cat is now getting tangled because she cannot settle. Nevertheless, they turn up among a number of cultures, as well as within Hinduism and Buddhism, and communities such as the Nagavanshi and the Khmer and the Sri Lankan Tamils even claim descent from this race of beings. So there are those who consider the Naga to be their ancestor, which is pretty cool. Now, in Sanskrit, Naga can also mean snake, and is usually depicted by the specifically Indian cobra, the Najanata. A synonym for Naga is Fanin, and there are several words for snake in general, which seems to have influenced in that the word for snake in English actually comes from the cognate of the Indian word sarpa, whereas the original in English, I suppose, would be serpent. So it goes to show that this affected even the rest of the world's languages, which is pretty cool. And Indo-European etymology could refer also to the idea of either being hairless or naked, as a snake obviously is. Now, Nagas are, as a serpent-shaped group of deities, usually take the form of cobras in Hinduism, very much popular in Hindu iconography throughout Hindu texts, especially the first book of the Mahabharata, which of course is a very famous and important religious text in Hinduism. But it also comes up a lot in local folk traditions of worship. So we see it turning up quite a lot. I have people sending me messages on WhatsApp while I'm trying to do this. Not everybody knows I do a live at this time. So, in some region of the Himalaya, the Himalayan mountains, Nagas are regarded as divine rulers of the region, and in the Kulu Valley in Berinag, and in the valley of the Pindar River, which is believed to be ruled by the ninefold Naini Devi. Both the Nilamata Purana of Kashmir and the Swayambhu Purana of Kathmandu, the region begins their history as a lake populated by Nagas that later became drained. Now, ancient Sanskrit texts like the Mahabharata and indeed the Ramayana, which is one of my favorites, if you ever want to read a really cool story, the Ramayana is a great one. They certainly knew how to make epic tales, and I like it. It's my favorite of all of the Hindu texts. But the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Puranas describe the Nagas as powerful, splendid, proud semi-divine species, and often with a halo of cobra hoods behind their heads, so multiple hoods, which is pretty cool. Now, they are obviously considered to be very important. Jaden, I see you sneak in there, sir. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, usually as a human figure, but with this halo of snake heads. But sometimes as a whole serpent as well, their domain being the enchanted underworld, the underground realm filled with gems, gold, and other earthly treasures, called the Nagaloka. So the underworld isn't quite as nasty in Indian mythology as it is in most others. Oh, I do like all your all your little stickers there. So we're doing India, Jaden. I don't know if you remember, we said we would, and we're on Nagas. So they are considered to be guardians of this realm, and it's apparently an incredibly beautiful realm down there. Jaden, how are you doing?
I'm good, you?
I'm freezing.
Unfortunate.
Is it not cold by you?
It's hot.
Oh God, I'm jealous. No, the temperature went down really rapidly tonight, and it is absolute freezing.
It's like 24 by us.
I hate you. You're not my friend anymore.
Mommy,
We got like 6 degrees.
I can't even put the blanket on anymore because it gets too... Yo, my mic is breaking up.
No, man, it is freezing in the mountains, believe me. It is freezing.
Mountains?
I'm in the
No,
Drakensberg.
mountains.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, that's why.
Probably, yeah. Though I believe the cold's coming your side soon.
No, don't say that. Because I have to go wake my father up at 4:30, so I'm gonna stay up.
Ish. I'm glad it's warm for you for now then.
Because we need to watch MotoGP, which is something that me and him is really obsessed with.
Well, MotoGP is pretty cool. To be fair, I prefer it to the other racings. So,
Okay, who's your favorite type?
oh, I
Who's
don't
your
have
favorite
favorites. I just like the cars.
I'm talking about, no, not motorsport, MotoGP. It's like the races bikes, not cars.
Oh, you're the bikes, yes. But they do it with 4x4s as well, don't they?
I don't know.
It's all cool, nevertheless.
My favorite.
Off-road type stuff is what's cool.
True. There's only 3 people in the life.
Yeah, we get there. We've only just started.
Oh, so I'm early.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Do not fear. There, you see, it's already 5. So, we're talking about
Just my
briefly.
finger for a second, right? Like I was playing outside, I was playing rugby. I dislocated my finger for a second, so I just popped it back in. Now my finger's hurting. I don't know if I can tap.
It will do that. Seeing as it's warm by you, put ice on it. It will help, believe me. It keeps the swelling down so that tomorrow, because it'll really only start hurting properly tomorrow. Trust me.
Right now.
Yeah, but not like it will tomorrow morning. You want it to relax. So put a bit of ice on first, and then once it's settled, then you keep it warm. Then it'll be okay in the morning.
Yeah, it'll by itself. I don't have to do anything.
Well, then you must live with it. But yes, so here's an interesting thing for you, Jaden. The underworld in Hindu mythology isn't like it is in most cultures. It's actually a pretty nice place. Yeah, and it's filled with treasure. Lots and lots and lots of treasure. And they say that down there are all kinds of bodies of water, rivers, lakes, seas, wells. And this is because it is the realm of the Nagas, the snake shapeshifters, and the treasure belongs to them.
Okay, so I guess if I go to the underworld in India, I'm not gonna steal anything.
It's probably unwise because these guardians are noted for their extreme power, being semi-divine and very, very, very venomous. Which sounds like, yeah, don't mess with them, just in case.
What if you Saint Bolt is with you and he has like a strap around his waist and it's also holding you? When they're chasing you, you can just run.
Well, they are semi-divined. Guko, welcome. How are you? He's very quiet. It seems that Guko has joined our live, but he's quiet. But welcome nevertheless. We're glad to have you on.
Maybe you need some ASMR. Oh, yeah. There's some ASMR for you.
What are you bashing?
My phone.
You're crazy. Okay, so these Nagas that live down there, they are said to be mostly benevolent.
Oh, he left.
Yeah, it's okay. He's still lurking on the live. Not everybody wants to be speaking. Some people like to just listen. Well, maybe he thought he'd try. It's okay.
Oh, you know what you could do? You could like make like you know Spotify. You could do like podcasts.
Yes, you can. You can actually do it on TikTok as well. But I haven't tried that yet.
I mean, you'll get way more views.
I do short videos. Not
English sorts Bible videos. Those are.
Yeah, they're quite interesting, aren't they? I watched a couple as well.
AI. Especially the. Which one was that? Genesis or something.
Well, she says she's going through every single book. So it's going to take a while.
Books.
Well, it depends. If you go with the full version, that it's 74. No, 72. I was just remembering from the Septuagint. Gigi, thank you for that.
I have to stay up and I have to just stick with it. And I don't even have.
Well,
I need my Coke. Hey, no, wait, TikTok, it's not drugs. It's Coke, not the
Coca-Cola.
Coke. Snuff up. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about for Gigi.
Did you know back in the olden days, like the 1800s or the 19s, Coca-Cola was made with cocaine?
That is true. So, Hindu mythology, they are benevolent for the most part, which means that they are good, they are nice, such as the Samudra Mansana, Vasuki, who is a Nagaraja, which means a king Naga, who apparently lives on Sva's neck for some reason, I suppose showing that it's a place of importance, and became the rope for churning the ocean of milk. So milk's very important in Hindu understanding. So an ocean of milk would be massively important. Now, of course, their rival
Wait, sorry if I'm like being rude or anything. Do you know what I don't like about milk?
What?
It has that weird, not sour, but the flavor, so it doesn't. I only drink.
It's called lactose. Yes, and that is one of the reasons why it's important for the Hindus. That's considered to be something semi-divine. Now,
it makes your bones strong.
It does indeed. Now, in real life, as we know, for scientific side of view of things, snakes' big enemy is an eagle, because eagles are known to catch them. And interestingly, in the Hindu mythology, the enemy, the eternal enemy, in fact, of the Naga is the Garuda, which is the semi-divine eagle deity. So this is quite important. It shows both life and perhaps, if this is all true, maybe it shows how the world... Yes?
I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna come back.
Ah, it's all good, sir. No problems.
Because my thing, I can't see the chat, so it makes me, I'm not used to it. I'll be right back.
No problems. So, this gives us a little bit of background to the Naga. We know that Vishnu is originally portrayed in the form sheltered by... Okay, if you're Hindu, I'm going to apologize at my pronunciation because I'm not good at this, but I will do my best. So you may feel free to laugh. Okay, so he's portrayed in the form sheltered by Sheshanaga, or reclining on Shesha. Now, Sheshanaga apparently is a specific Naga. But the iconography has extended as well to other deities, as the Naga apparently are very, very important, not only to people, but also to the deities themselves, which is a very interesting thing. Now, they feature in Ganesha iconography and appear in many forms around the neck. That's something I'm not entirely clear about, because this is true, now that I think about it, you often see favored things or favored creatures around the neck of the deity in question. And it seems to be a way of showing huge importance to the creature or thing. So maybe this connects to something else. I don't know. If you do know, let me know. But we also know that certain of these snakes are used as the sacred thread, which we do know is threads are used in religious functions in Hinduism quite a lot, which is quite important. The Yanopavita, I hope I said that right, wrapped around the stomach like a belt or held in the hand, coiled at the ankles, or even used as a throne. Sva is often shown garlanded with a snake. Mehel states that Patanjali is thought to be the manifestation of the serpent of eternity. So snakes hold an interesting role in Hinduism, in that whereas most cultures and countries consider snakes to be bad, this is not the case. Snakes are good. So it gives a very different viewpoint. Now, this means that while in many cultures shapeshifters are looked on as bad things, this particular one is considered to be a very good one, but also dangerous. You don't mess with it, because after all, as you know, it can quite possibly come back and do bad things. So as we progress in South India, termite hills are believed to be the dwelling place of the Nagamas. Welcome back, Jaden.
I'm just gonna leave.
What?
Someone's eating on me.
No, he's interested in what's been saying. Just chill, life is good. Do not worry. And we're going to keep you awake so that you can last till morning. So, in the idea of a termite hill being the hidden homes. South India, if you didn't know, has got quite a few hot, flat plains, and just like in South Africa on the sort of open veldt, termite hills are all over the place, which is pretty hectic, because if each one is the hidden home of a female naga, that means there is a lot of nagas around. So that's rather interesting. Now, this is in contrast to the Himalayan nags and naginis, the male and female naga, such as the Naini Divai of the Pindar Valley, which are said actually to mostly stay in the underworld, protecting the water resources and the well-being of the villages and valleys, which I suppose, given that it is a very hot country, water would be of great importance. So absolutely. Now, in terms of literature, if you want to know more about them, absolutely the Mahabharata is the place to begin, which introduces the Nagas, describes them in detail, and narrates all their stories. It also speaks of Shesha, which is a Naga, but it is specifically just one, the cosmic snake, and also the Nagarajas, the Naga kings, which are obviously a greater and more powerful version of a Naga, and that is Vasuki, Takshaka, Airvata, and Karkotaka, and of course the Princess Lupi. All of them are explained in the Mahabharata. The Brahma Purana describes the reign of Adishesha as the king of the serpents in the Patala. And here is a brief excerpt just to give you an idea of how wonderful actually the writing is. During the night, the light of the moon is not utilized for its coolness, but only for illumination, since it passes away, is not taken notice of by the Nagas, who enjoy with gaiety the foodstuff and edibles they consume, and the beverages they drink, nor are the Danujas and others aware of it. O Brahmins, the forests, rivers, lakes, and lotus ponds, the cooing of the cuckoo, and the other sweet birds, the pleasing skies. So it is very poetic, and it's really quite beautiful to read, but at the same time, of course, it explains the great Nagas and the snakes thereof, when they speak of the world snake with his 1,000 hoods, bedecked in the swastika ornaments. Now, here's another interesting thing just for you. Most of us around the world know the swastika as being the symbol of Nazi Germany. And I've always wondered why they chose to use it, because the swastika does not come from Germany. They took it over, if you will. It's an Indian symbol, and in fact, it's supposed to be the other way around than was used by the Nazis, and it's a symbol of life, purity, and holiness. So you will often see it used in Hinduism for that. It's a pleasure, Gigi. As I say, it's not my favorite. I'm afraid I'm not a Hindu, but in terms of stories, I have a great tendency to prefer the Ramayana, mostly because my favorite of all, in fact, do I have him here? I will show you, I do. 1 second, I'm going to grab him for you. I will introduce you to two of my favorite little ornaments, which were very, very kindly given to me by some Hindu friends. They're the same thing, actually. I don't know if you recognize, but there is my lad, and I have a jeweled version as well, which was very kindly given to me, and that is Hanuman. And Hanuman is my absolute favorite of all of the deities, and I've followed the evolution of Hanuman not only through Indian mythology but through Chinese as well, because of course Bodhidharma took the concept of Hanuman across to become the Monkey King in Chinese mythology. But his home and birthplace, so to speak, was of course India, and that I'm afraid is why the Ramayana is my personal favorite, which perhaps is not entirely respectful, given that the Ramayana is supposed to be about Rama, but I've always had a thing for Hanuman, even as a non-Hindu, which maybe is strange. Speaking of which, though, the Kamba Ramayana describes the role of Vasuki in the Samudra Manthana. And so that you know, you get two kinds of sort of divine spiritual being. You have the Devas and the Asuras, and both are important in different ways. So this one speaks of the Devas and the Asuras wanting to get Amrita, which we would call from the Greek ambrosia, the celestial honey of immortality. But you only can get it by churning the sea of milk. So the Devas went to bring Mandara mountain to be used as a churning rod, but they failed. The Asuras made a trial as well to prove that they could do it, and they also failed. So neither side could get the immortal drink. So the Bhutaganas, the gods of Shiva, also made an attempt to show that they could do it, and they too failed. So on the instruction to Vishnu, Garuda went and brought the mountain as easily as an eagle takes away a frog. Now Vasuki should be brought. The Devas and the Gairavas failed in the attempt also, and Garuda, who was haughty of his strength and speed, went to the city of the Nagas and requested Vasuki to come to the Sea of Milk. Vasuki replied that it was a matter, if it was so urgent, then he had no objection to being carried there. And he took the middle part of Vasuki in his beak and flew higher and higher beyond the horizon, but still the lower half of Vasuki was on the ground. So he took Vasuki, folded in two, and still the result was the same, and Garuda became aware of the impossibility of carrying Vasuki and returned ashamed and disappointed. Vishnu rebuked him for his arrogance, and after this Sva stretched his hand to Patala, and Vasuki became no more than a tiny little bangle on that hand, and he was brought to the shores of the Sea of Milk. And of course it is known then that the Naga managed to churn up the Sea of Milk and succeeded where even many of the gods failed, and so gained importance and a preferential place with Sva, which is quite important. Now, of course, this also is reflected in many other stories, why the Naga are so important, and you find it in the Deva Bhagavata Purana, the legend of Manasa as well. And there you'll see that it's not only the male Nagas that have their greatest importance, but the females as well. And I do find that by and large Hinduism is very egalitarian as to gender and such. Each has their place and their great importance. And it speaks of how Manasa, the daughter of Maharishi Kasyapa, became a yogini in that way. Her meditation of the holy is extremely powerful, and of course she is a great devotee of Vishnu and of the Siddha yogini, and she worshipped Sri Krishna, which is one of the important manifestations, I believe, of Shiva, and so became a true yogi. So the beings managed to gain great power within the abode of the Nagas in the earth as well as in the other worlds, and as such she became greatly devoted to all that Vishnu did. And doing this, she went to a point where she became so important, holy, powerful. Your boy PJ, hey, welcome. She became so powerful that she held a special place, and at a point she saved all the Nagas in the snake sacrifice that was performed, and as such she was named Nagasvari and Nagabhagini, and she is therefore the highest of all of the Nagas in specialty, spirituality, and is able to destroy any poison. Well, that's an interesting question, because in certain versions of the, shall we say, the lesser stories, it's not mentioned in the main tales, but certainly in other stories, some of them do seem to take human partners. So it is quite possible. Now, is it a common thing? We're not sure. I suppose it would be considered to be a huge honor to the human that they chose in that regard. But yeah, now in Buddhism, you have very similar ideas. They're usually appearing as a human being with a halo of snakes. Now, one Naga in human form attempted to become a Buddhist monk, and when telling it that ordination was impossible, the Buddha told it how to ensure that it could be reborn as a human and therefore become a monk. Now, I'm not sure why in Buddhism only humans can become monks, but apparently that is a thing. Now, Nagas are believed to live both on Nagaloka, among the other minor deities, as well as in various parts of our earth. Some of them are water dwellers, living in streams, and some of them are earth dwellers, living in caverns. Hinduism seems to have combined the two, but Buddhism does separate it somewhat. Now, the Nagas are the followers of Virupaksha, one of the four heavenly kings who guards the western direction. So snakes belong to the west, it seems. They act as guards upon Mount Sumeru, protecting the devas of Trayastrimsa from attacks by the Asuras. Now, I find that interesting because sometimes the devas and Asuras seem to get along, and sometimes they really, really don't. Endless Thoughts. Good evening. And you found a bone icon. That's so awesome. Ha 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 ha. And much thanks for all the likes, peoples. I appreciate it very, very greatly. I'm surprised that Jacqueline hasn't come on tonight, because she was the one who requested this particular topic. But so that you know, we are doing shapeshifters and some other cryptids of India, and we are on Nagas, the snake shapeshifters, semi-divine and surprisingly good ones, unlike in many other cultures where shapeshifters are the bad ones. So there you go. And what do you think? I put my outdoor winter hood on for tonight, just for extra warmth. Yes, I always wear a hood when I do my lives. Why? Because it's become a thing. I don't know. And everybody comments on it. So, there you go. So, we see then that in the Buddhist traditions in India, the important Nagas include Mukhalinda Nagaraja, and the protector of the Buddha. Now, again, you're seeing they act as protectors and assistants of the gods in many ways. So clearly important in the mythology and in the beliefs of these things. And in the Vinaya Sutra, number 1, part 3, after his enlightenment, Buddha is meditating in the forest when a great storm arises, but graciously King Mukhalinda gives shelter to the Buddha from the storm by covering the Buddha with his 7 snake heads. Remember, 7 again is important as a number in these things. Then the king takes the form of a young Brahmin and renders homage to the Buddha. So in the Vajrayana and the Mahasiddha traditions, Nagas in their half-human form are depicted as holding a Nagas jewel, kumbhas of Amrita, or a dharma that has been elementally encoded by adepts. So, snakes and jewels, this is a thing. We see in the Hindu version, the Nagas have the treasures under the earth. In the Buddhist version, they have a special jewel. And of course, as we know in many, interestingly enough, in many dragon mythology stories from around the world, they are always said to have gems. Maybe there is something to that, snakes and gems, because Nagas and snakes, of course, are related to dragons and are considered to be a kind of dragon in that regard. In Tibetan Buddhism, going right north, Nagas are known as Klu or Klumo, and they are associated with water and cleanliness, living in oceans, rivers, lakes, springs, and so on, and they do not like pollution at all. So you see that what has begun in India has absolutely gone all over the world. Now, we see that the important chief disciples of Buddha, Sariputta and Moggallana, are both referred to as Mahanaga, which is the great Naga. So it's very much, again, a positive thing, not in any way negative. And a number of important figures in Buddhist history even take on the name Naga within their chosen name to show the importance. Endless thoughts. In certain versions, yes. And remember that the Berserk, there are 4 different varieties, each with its own animal, and it was said that the most powerful of them could shapeshift into their chosen animal. So the Berserk would be a bear, the Ulfhedna would be the wolf, and then you've got the boar. I don't remember the names in Nordic for the last 2. The boar, which is the guardian, yes, and the raven. So absolutely yes. And we will do the shapeshifters of the Nordic people probably in the next live. So stick for that, and we will give you as many answers as possible. That'll be, what's today? Today's Friday. It'll be tomorrow night. Yes. So absolutely. Now, in literature, we see that quite a few stories refer to the Naga. The Naga Samyutta of the Pali Canon consists of the suttas specifically devoted to explaining the nature of the Nagas, the Devadatta chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the daughter of the Dragon King, and the 8-year-old Longnu is a Naga in that regard. And of course it explains all about this particular one, how they can transform, how they can shapeshift, and the emptiness of the physical form, which is one of the big deals in Buddhism, that emptiness is kind of the point, and they can magically transform at will. And many of the schools of Buddhism, especially the classical and Chinese, interpret the story as it shows that Buddhism or Buddhahood can be achieved by men or women in any form, which is quite nice, I suppose. Either answer of what the explanation is pretty cool. Now, they do go on to explain how in other forms of Buddhism around the world, Nagas are portrayed, but we won't go into it except to say that they are known as guardians and owners of either submerged or hidden treasures, which might be physical, supernatural, or spiritual. So, and of course, this is spread, as we have said, all around the world. You see them in Thailand, Java, Malay, Laos, Tibet, Sri Lanka. Of course, Sri Lanka is right there by India, so it kind of counts. So we will go there as well. Now, in Sri Lanka, Nagas are considered to be an ancient tribe, and in fact the original inhabitants and the ancestors of the people of Sri Lanka. According to Kanakasabai, the Olia, he says that these beings were widespread across South India and northeast Sri Lanka. All of the Naga tribes, there are references to them in several ancient texts, like the Mahavamsa and the Mani Kalai, as well as other Sanskrit and Pali literature. They're represented as a class of superhumans, taking the form of serpents who inhabit a subterranean world. They are persons in human form, but can take other forms, which is pretty important. Sarul Havit. Do I own a staff? I actually do. I have several, funnily enough, Endless Thoughts, and one of the hobbies I have is Bojitsu. So yes, I have a fighting staff. I also have a walking staff, which I use quite a lot for when I do my walks. So yes, I do indeed have that. This isn't actually a full cloak. This is just the hood. I do have a cloak because, as you know, though not many people do, I was actually a monk, and so I do have my original monk's robe with cloak and robe and hood and everything, and proper rope cincture still, which was made specifically for me, so I still have it. But I like hoods because I am, as you well know, very bald, and my head gets very cold. So in cold weather I like it. In hot weather I like it. This is a double-sided thick one, but I have a much thinner one, which is for hot weather, and it keeps the sun off. And this one's brown, but the inside is black, and it is reversible. My other one is black. So yeah, I like my hoods, and yes, I like my staff. So absolutely. So there you go. Maybe that says something about me. I don't know. Nevertheless, we see that the Nagas are very much in Cambodia, which again I won't go into. But there are a number of types of Naga, and we do need to cover that a little bit. You get the basic Naga, which I suppose would be your lowest level, just a single-headed Naga, usually found in carvings, used for protection in temples, monastery, kings' palaces, and residences of deities. They symbolize that even if everything in the world is gone, a Naga will remain to bring victory and happiness to all, which is actually pretty cool by and large. You also, however, get the three-headed Kalyak Naga, born between the mortal and divine realms. They live at the bottom of the ocean as guardians of wealth, sometimes depicted as evil. Not entirely sure why, because usually the Naga is considered to be good. Is that why Money and Falcon is described as water? Yes. That's actually a very good point, and you are quite correct. We hadn't quite got to that bit yet, but yes. Cash flow. This is exactly it. Nagas, snakes, and that's why snakes are considered to connect to wealth as well. Money and wealth, indeed, is connected to water for this exact reason. And of course, the most important thing for living is water. If you don't have it, you're pretty much done. Now, the reason why this might be depicted in evil in certain ways is because it connects to the Hindu Trimurti. So on the left is Vishnu, in the middle is Shiva, and the right is Brahma. And the three realms, heaven, from where the Devas come, earth, where we come from, yay, and hell, the Narok realm. So it shows that it's the good, the neutral, and the bad. So it's not so much they are evil in and of themselves. I thought Naga was a food dish. I hadn't heard that. Made of what? Now I'm curious. What food dish is Naga? I'm dying to know more. I'm going to look it up. I have to know. A spicy meal. It's not a specific food item. It refers to the rich and distinctive cuisine of the Naga people, who primarily inhabit the state of Nagaland in northeastern India. And Naga is known for its bold, smoky, and spicy flavors. Rice is the core part of the meal, but it includes a whole lot of other things: vegetables, herbs, and local meats, usually hot. Ooh. I have a feeling I would like that. And Endless Thoughts, you are 1,000,000% correct. That is quite impressive. I have learnt something today. That's pretty damn cool. Now, of course, as we move on, you start increasing the importance of the Nagas, and therefore the number of heads. just like the tails on a kitsune, it seems. So your 5-headed Anantak or Sesak, these are born from earthly elements and are immortals. They symbolize the 5 directions: north, south, east, west, and middle. I've never thought of middle as a direction, but nevertheless, it also connects to the rivers, the Ganga, or Ganges, the Indus River, the Yamuna River, the Brahmaputra River, and the Sarasvati River. So also in Buddhism, the 5 heads represent the 5 Buddhas of importance: Karabak, Kunsonso, Kunoya Kumno, Samnak Kudon, and Gautama Buddha, and Seremetre. So yes, the important bits of the world and the holiness and more. And then of course you move even higher to the 7-headed Muchlentak, which comes from the Himalayas. They bring peace and, yes, prosperity to humans. They control the 7 oceans and the 7 mountains, and I am not going to pronounce that. I will probably strangle myself with my own tongue if I tried. Seison Tarak Satak Borepon. I survived. That was all one word. Yep. And of course, this is what sheltered the Gautama Buddha for 7 days and 7 nights. Mukhalinda did. Often depicted as guardian statues carved as balustrades on causeways leading to main temples, such as those found in Angkor Wat, which is Cambodian. They represent the 7 races within the Naga society and have a mythological or symbolic association with, rather sweetly, the 7 colors of the rainbow. They symbolize the sun and the moon and the 5 planets, which were known to be, according to the mythology. Yeah, again, despite the fact that we've got lots of people commenting and lots of talking going on, it's thought we were inactive. I don't understand TikTok sometimes. I think they do it just to poke you. Poke. So, yes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are all of the important days. So, 7 thereof, 7-headed Naga, which probably is why even in Europe we've ended up with 7 days. I suspect the Indo-European connection is where it comes from. So the moon, Mars, Tuesday, Mercury, Wednesday, Jupiter, Thursday, Venus, Friday, and Saturday, Saturn for Saturday, and then the sun for Sunday. So all importance. But there is yet a higher level, believe it or not, the 9-headed Vasukak, the king that rules the earth, Vasuki. When carved on both sides, the front head represent reincarnation and the rear heads represent death. He symbolizes the power of the 9 immortals of the universe, the power of lightning and thunder of the east, the power of fire in the southeast, the power of law and order to the south, the power of the spirits and demonic creatures to the southwest, the power of rain to the west, the power of the wind of the northwest, the power of wealth and ascetic of the north, the power of destruction of the northeast, and the power of Brahma, creation and preservation, in the middle. So there you go. And in Indian origin religions, there are 4 different Naga races, which are quite important. Huge thanks there to Endless Thoughts, who banged us straight through to our live goal. Ah, that is a great kindness. I truly do appreciate that. And remember, guys, do like, share, subscribe. Endless Thoughts is always a huge supporter, and we love her dearly, but we can't rely only on her. So tap those likes and subscribes and more. And make sure you go and like, share, and subscribe her channel as well. She does some amazing things. And she's just started up an entire run through the whole Bible, which I think is a really cool one. I've got to be honest. I've seen a couple of them. Very, very nice. So absolutely go and check it out and enjoy. So the 4 Naga races, you've got the primitive dragons, which are much more like Can I wish your friend Tom Weiss a happy birthday? Yes, happy birthday, Tom Weiss. I hope you have an absolutely amazing one. So the primitive dragons are the earth dragons. They're like the European version of a dragon, as we see it. Big wings, scaly, spits fire. Then you have the spiritual dragons, who are the guardians of wealth, protecting the treasures of the ocean, that are the most usual Naga type. They can take half human form when they want to. Thank you, Endless Thoughts. And yes, I always like to do the things nobody else will talk of, because I usually find that these are things that should be talked about, because knowing more of them makes us better and more human and more tolerant. But nobody seems to like to do it, so therefore I do. I encourage people to know more of lots of religions, read the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, read the Bible, read the Quran. You can learn a lot by knowing other people, even if you don't have to believe. And for Endless Thoughts, who's late, I'm going to show her my absolute favorite little statuettes that were given to me by some very, very good Hindu friends. That is my jeweled one. Oops, can you see him? He's not coming up in the... There we go. And that is Hanuman. Yes, and I have a non-jeweled version as well. Hanuman is one of my favorite deities to read about, and he's found across all over the world, so I wanted to show you. Yes, and yes, he turns up in the Ramayana, as well as a number of Chinese stories as well. And it's a fascinating thing, and of course I like him because he is the god of the staff and staff combat, and also of herbs and herbal healing. So a very cool thing to have, and of course a beautiful gift from some very good people, different people for each one, as a matter of fact. Now, as we go along, the next form of the Nagas is the divine Nagas, who can travel to heaven, that come from Lord Indra's realm, and they can become fully human when they want to, not just partly. And then finally you have the highest level of all, the supreme and divine Nagas, like Vasuki, the follower of Lord Shiva, who alone can fight the entire Garuda race. And they have many, many powers, including not just being immensely poisonous, or venomous, I should say, and incredibly strong and fast. They can also set off storms, rain, tempests, and create lands from the sea, which is pretty impressive. Now, as I said, we're not going to go into the other places where they're important, simply because those are other countries, and we will get to them in due course and talk about them when we do the shapeshifters there. But it's India that we are doing today, so we are going to leave behind them and talk about the next great shapeshifter. And that, of course, is the Rakasha. And what is a Rakasa? Well, it's said to be a usually, but not always, malevolent or demonic being. They feature in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Indonesian folk Islam. They reside on earth but have supernatural powers, which they usually use for evil acts, such as disrupting Vedic sacrifices or eating people, which seems not very nice. The term is also used to sometimes describe the Asuras, a class of power-seeking beings that oppose the benevolent Devas, often depicted as antagonists to the Devas in Hindu scriptures, as well as Buddhism and Jainism. The feminine form of the Rakasa is a Rakasi. So in Hinduism, in the Puranas, Brahma, in a form composed of the quality of foulness, produced hunger, of whom anger was born, and the god put forth in darkness beings emaciate with hunger, of hideous aspects, and with long beards. These beings hastened to the deity, and such among them as exclaimed, "Preserve us," and were hence called Raksasas. These created beings, overwhelmed by hunger, attempted to seize the waters, and among them they said, we will protect these waters, and they were remembered as Rakasas. So they're most often depicted as shape-shifting, fierce-looking, enormous, monstrous creatures with two fangs protruding from the top of the mouth and having sharp, claw-like fingernails. They were shown as being mean, growling beasts with insatiable hunger and man-eaters who could smell the scent of human flesh, kind of like, in many ways, ogres in the old European stories, interestingly enough. Nevertheless, some of the more ferocious ones were shown with flaming red eyes and drinking blood with their cupped hands from human skulls. Not vampires per se, but with certain similarities. Generally, they could fly, turn invisible, and had Maya, which is the magical power of illusions, which enabled them to change size at will and assume the form of any creatures. Now, in the Hindu epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, they were a very common and populous race. They're both good and evil Rakshasas, and as warriors they fought alongside the armies of both good and evil. They were powerful warriors, expert magicians and illusionists, and shapeshifters that could take all kinds of different forms. As illusionists, they were capable of creating appearances that were so powerful that those that believed in them found them to become real. So some Rakshasas were said to be man-eaters and made their gleeful appearance when the slaughter on a battlefield was at its worst. And sometimes they were used as general soldiers for one or another warlord, which is interesting. Aside from their treatment of unnamed rank-and-file Rakshasas, the epics tell the stories of certain members of these beings who rose to prominence, sometimes as heroes, but mostly as villains. So, in the Ramayana, the books 3 to 6 of the Ramayana, the Rakshasas are the main antagonists. The important protagonist is Rama, and he slays many of the Rakshasas throughout the epic, including Tataka, Marika, and Ravana. In the epic, the Rakshasas are portrayed as mostly demonic, who are aggressive, overly sexual, and evil. They can assume any form they wish, which Ravana uses to good effect to trick and kidnap Sita. And of course, Sita is Rama's wife, which drives the rest of the narrative, as the whole point is that Rama is going to get her back. The Rakshasas reside in the forest south of the Gangetic plain, so the plain below the Ganges River, and in the island fortress of Lanka, both far away from the lands of Kosala and the home of Rama. In Lanka, the capital of Ravana, the Rakshasas live in a complex society comparable to the humans of Ayodhya, where some Rakshasas and some Vibhasana are moral beings. Now, Ayodhya is an ancient city, and it's believed to be real. Druid is still my favorite. I played World of Warcraft. I had a friend that used to be massively into it, and he got what, well, at the time, I suppose, I don't know if it still is, was one of the fastest and most powerful computers you could get. And he set it up specifically to play World of Warcraft. And I went over a couple of times, and he let me have a go on it. And I got to admit, it was very addictive. I fully agree. And I'm very, very glad that I didn't have the ability to play the game on my own, because I think that I would have ended up playing it non-stop. So absolutely. And yes, the Druid is cool, and for those of you who haven't played World of Warcraft, the main point of why the Druid is so cool is that it is a shapeshifter, and therefore can become varying beings dependent, and yeah, it's horribly addictive, be warned. Now, in the Mahabharata, there are several encounters between the Pandava, Bhima, and the Rakshasas. So Bhima killed Hidimba, who was a strong and cannibalistic Rakshasa. And when Hidimba saw Pandavas sleeping in his forest, he decided, I'm going to eat this guy. And he sent his sister Hidimbi to assess the situation, but unfortunately she fell in love with Bhima and warned him of the danger. When Hidimba confronted Bhima, he was then subsequently killed. The next interesting one is Ghatotkacha, who actually fought on the side of the Pandavas, and he was the son of Bhima and the Rakshasi Hidimbi. So there's an answer to you, Gigi, because yes, they can and do marry people, it seems, the varying possible creatures. So their son went off and became pretty important on both sides. Now, Bakasura was a cannibalistic forest-dwelling Rakshasa who terrorized the nearby human population, forcing them to take turns to give many deliveries of food, including human victims, just to keep him at bay. The Pandavas traveled to the area and took up residence with a local Brahmin family, and their turn came when they had to make a delivery to Bakasura, and they debated who among them should be sacrificed. Eventually, Bhima volunteered to take care of the matter, and he went into the forest with the food delivery and ate it on the way just to annoy Bakasura. And when he got there, he engaged Bakasura in a ferocious wrestling match and broke his back. The human townspeople were so amazed and grateful, and the local Rakshasas begged for mercy, which Bhima granted them on the condition that they totally gave up cannibalism. And they agreed and soon became peaceful and helpful. So there was a good one. The Kidmira, brother of Bakasura, was a cannibal as well, but a master illusionist, and he haunted the wood of Kamyaka dining on human travelers. And like his brother before him, he made the mistake of fighting the Pandav hero Bhima, who also used his bare hands to sort him out. Jatasura was a cunning one who disguised himself as a Brahmin and attempted to steal the weapons of the Pandavas and to ravish Draupadi, the wife of one of the 5 Pandavas. Bhima arrived in time to intervene and dueled with Jatasura and sought him out. Now, interestingly, though, these tales show them in both a positive light and a negative light. So there are both kinds. So, yes. Oh, huge thanks for all of those likes as well. I appreciate them greatly. And for all the comments. Keep commenting, people. We need comments. Now, as we move along, we find that the Rakshasas are also spoken of in a number of Buddhist scriptures, not only in Buddhism in India, but also even in the Chinese traditions as well. And they have their versions and their own names. In China, Luosha, and in Japan, Reisetsu. And they are spoken of in a number of holy writings in that regard. And Sri Lanka is said to be the home of the Rakshasas, where they originate from, which is interesting. One wonders what the Sri Lankans think of that. And some of them, again, are considered good, and some of them are considered to be bad. The Jainist view of them has different accounts of the Rakshasas, and they are considered them to be actually civilized and vegetarian, who are devotees of Tirthankara. So it's a very different view of what the Rakshasas are. They're even mentioned in Islam, interesting enough, though they consider them bad, where they were once people whose soul were replaced by the spirit of a shayateen, and therefore became a kind of half human, half demon. So yes, you can become a Rakshasa. Next interesting thing to look at in that regard, because after all we do want, and of course we now need to go on to one which is one of my favorites, of course, because specific shapeshifters are different to general shapeshifters. I don't know what that is a picture of. Why can I not see what that is a picture of? It looks cool and bat-like. Cool. Okay, so specific like the werewolf, you absolutely have the were tiger. Now, the were tiger, known as Tekumiavi, is popular among the Angami tribe of Nagaland. So yes, Nagaland is northeastern India, I believe. Unlike werewolves, were tigers don't transform from human to animal completely. Instead, the soul of the human shifts to a tiger's body, while the human body functions normally, albeit soulless for a short time. But while in this form, the human behaves like a tiger, and the human body experiences everything the tiger body does. some kind of a thing similar to what happens in the Matrix. Other versions, however, the bat emoji. I've never seen the bat emoji. I didn't know there. I'm going to go look for one. Yeah, I know. I noticed that. It's really irritating when these things happen. I don't have a bat emoji. I got a skull emoji for me being Bones. How's that? Does that count? But yes, some say that they will turn into much like the modern version of a werewolf, which is not from human to total wolf, but a humanoid with wolf head and features. So yes, in this case, they'll change into that. So how do you tell a Tekumiavi from a regular tiger? Well, the Weir tiger has 5 claws instead of 4, so you can tell from the footprints. So if you're out and you think you're being hunted by a Tekumiavi from Nagaland, stop and have a good hard look at the footprints while it drops on your head from a tree above. Maybe not. So these creatures are incredibly powerful and dangerous, and absolutely you have to be very, very careful of them, because they get very hungry and will, of course, munch on the random people around. They are considered to be cunning, ferocious, able to appear just as normal human beings. But they are particularly proud and arrogant, and consider themselves to be the kings of, well, everything. A vampire turns into a bat. True, it does. Does it count as a shapeshifter? Because shapeshifters are supposed to be human, whereas vampires were humans, even though they're dead now. We do know, when we get to it, that in South America, there is a bat shapeshifter, absolutely, with amazing stories around. I'm looking forward to getting to that one. So, yes, I suppose in certain respects, a vampire is a shapeshifter. I hadn't thought of it like that. Huh. Interesting. Endless Thoughts has a very good point. That's why we call her Endless Thoughts, because she has endless thoughts. But of course, Weir tigers are not the only version. You also have Penchak Penchi, which is a Bengali creature that is a Weir owl. A creature that is quite wise, but might prey on forest dwellers who wander off alone. When the Pencha is sure that help is far away, it strikes its prey down and drains its blood, turning the victim into another Pencha, like a vampire would, apparently, though that's not entirely confirmed. So it's a rather dangerous version of a shapeshifter, and interestingly, drinks blood like a vampire. So owls are as bad as vampire bats, it seems. Then, of course, you have the Navagunjara, which is a mix of interesting different things, which turns up in the one of the retellings of the Mahabharata. And the story goes that when Arjuna, one of the Pandava princes, was in the middle of a penance, a strange creature appeared before him, which was terrifying. And of course he tried to shoot it. It had the head and neck of a peacock, the hump of a bull, the waist of a lion, the tail of a snake, and it stood on 3 different kinds of feet: an elephant's, a horse, a deer's, and a tiger. The 4th limb was human. That's the wrong count somewhere in there. Which held a lotus, and because of the lotus, Arjuna realized that in fact it was Vishnu in disguise. So, a shape-shifting from a god. Does it count? I'm not too sure, because gods are supposed to be able to do a lot. So yes, we've got quite a few different shapeshifters: the nagas, the snakes, and the tigers and the owls. But there are, of course, a lot of other creatures, especially the ones eating lone travelers, just by the way. So if you're ever in India, make sure that you go with a friend. Because the next one, which is not a shapeshifter but absolutely a cryptid from Bengal, but also Bihar and Jharkhand, is a nishi. It's a kind of ghost, and what makes it particularly awful is it will call out to their victims in the voice of a loved one. And once they have lured the victim to a suitably secluded place, the nishi will then kill them. Because they always appear in the distance, the only description is that it's vague and shadowy. But you can identify these crafty creatures if you hear the call 3 times, then you know it's not a nishi. If it's a call twice, or once, it might be a nishi. The ghosts never call 3 times. So if a loved one calls you, make sure that it's 3 times before responding. If they call it for less, run. Why do skinwalkers turn into... This is an interesting point as well. Why the need to change in that regard? Possibly because the animal form, it has greater strength to it. It has more senses, more facility. That could be the reason. And that could be true of most shapeshifters. Hard to say, really. It is an excellent question. Why the need to change? Skinwalkers, as you know, do definitely change into a lot of different things. But then so do many shapeshifters in that regard. So... I think for the extra strength and power, I mean, as a human there are limits, but if you can turn even partly into a tiger with great claws, that would absolutely give you a certain amount of strength in that way, I suppose. And why is it not beautiful? Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. Why bad and not beautiful, or ugly and not beautiful? What is beautiful? What is beauty? I'm not sure that we are always quite correct in that regard. So... I don't know. Now here's one that is absolutely just for you, Endless Thoughts. It's kind of able to change its shape in a way, but in minor ways. And the reason is according to an 11th century text, King Ajatashatru of Magda had to protect the sacred relics of Buddha when he died. So this king concealed the relics in a secret underground chamber in the capital. The capital, Patna in Bihar, which back in the day was called Pataliputra. The warriors that stood guard, though, were automatons, robots. So Bhutavana Yantra, which is what they're called, literally means spirit movement machine. So they were robots that had a human spirit inside them. So they were excellent guards because they were able to not eat, sleep, drink, get old, anything. They just stand there. But they were people, human robots. Kelpies, yes, of course, Kelpies are one such form of shapeshifter, though they're from mostly Old English and Welsh and Irish and Scottish mythology, and they are shapeshifters, absolutely. One of their shapes being a horse. And of course they are absolutely bad. But apparently very pretty until they eat you, which may or may not mean something. But what other interesting cryptids are out there in India that are worth noting about? Well, there are a number of weird ones which I'm not entirely certain I understand, but my favorite one from very old stories, which used to be thought to be genuine, may have been genuine, but the great 18th century Swedish naturalist who devised our system for ordering life said that there is no such thing as a carnivorous plant. And it was then proved that he was wrong by Charles Darwin, who analyzed the idea and found that plants could be carnivorous. And this is pretty cool. But in Indian mythology, the carnivorous plants are full-sized trees, big enough to kill and consume a person or a large animal. The carnivorous plant with the largest known traps is probably the Nepenthes raja, which is a pitcher plant and is up to 38 centimeters tall, which is not very big. But it is big enough to eat small mammals like mice. They're not the full size, but in old stories, there were a great many tales of man-eating plants in the Amazon jungle and more that went round among explorers. And some of the more famous ones, in 1881, Carl Liescher, a German explorer, wrote an account on the South Australian he wrote it in the South Australian newspaper about Madagascar. You have to get the order of the words right. I don't do braining very well. Okay, so there's a particular tribe known as the Mkondo in Madagascar who do sacrifices to this giant carnivorous plant. The slender, delicate palps with the fury of starved serpents quiver overhead as if with instinct and demonic intelligence, and then fastened upon the female sacrifice in sudden coils round and around her neck and arms, and while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wildly to be instantly strangled it down again into a gurgling moan, the tendrils one after another, like great green serpents, with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose and retracted upon themselves, wrapped around her in fold after fold, ever tightening, with cruel swiftness and savage tenacity, fastening upon their prey, which is a pretty creepy idea. So apparently people believed that Madagascar had man-eating trees. It was also spoken of in other places. The Yataville is a plant big enough to consume people, apparently, found in Central and South America, and with cousins in Africa and on the shores of the Indian Ocean, with a lot of different descriptions, but broadly the same as the one we've just seen in Madagascar. Then you also have the idea of one in the area known as Padrame. I don't know where the heck that is. But there they have one big enough in the forests to even eat an entire cow, which is pretty impressive. Now, varying people of the time, which was around about the 19th century, said that the locals referred to them as tiger trees, and he received many complaints from locals about cattle being eaten by these creatures, and field staff confirming that these creatures were out there, and they'd even felled a couple. So, carnivorous trees, anyone? Now, interesting, because you wouldn't think it, but in the Himalayas around India, you also get the Yeti. So it's not only in other places like Russia and Tibet and Nepal and all of that, and as we know, North America, Canada, and all of there. It's an Indian creature as well. So we find that the Tibetan ones are generally white. But the ones down further south in the warmer places are often described as brown. So seems sensible. Different place, different environment, small changes, same thing. And actually, it seems that it's from there that we get the name Yeti, Yeta, the rock thing. And they're mentioned in Buddhist literature, pre-Buddhist literature, such as the Lecha people, who speak of them as glacier giants, Nepalese and Tibetan stories, and more. And they say that even certain bones have been brought in and are now at the Smithsonian Museum in America that are said to be from Yetis in that regard. So yeah, the ones in India are darker, so not quite the same. But Bigfoot it is, without much change in any of that. So it's an Indian thing as well, which almost proves that such things are possibly real. But did you know that the original place that stories came from of the unicorn was India. And yes, it is the single-horned, horse-like creature. And according to the description, they make careful point that the horn is a single horn from the center of the forehead, naturally grown, not that it's one that has lost one of its horns or anything like that. And it is said to have existed in ancient India, and people have claimed to have seen them. They're spoken of in a number of places. They say that people were able to even find skeletons, and in fact, Otto van Aurike actually had an entire unicorn skeleton, which he exhibited near the zoo in Onsebroek. So it seems that this creature has been out and about. Hussein can't wait. Yes, agreed. Endless thoughts. Muses can turn into doves. Well, they're divine, not really gods exactly, but they are not humans, so they don't count as shapeshifters. So I agree with you, Endless Thoughts. Hussein has joined us. Can my skeleton swing on a chandelier? I don't know. He generally just sits there, and it looks creepy, which is pretty cool. But nevertheless, but thank you very much, Hussein, and to Heart. I don't see a name, so I can't say that, but there you go. With that said, yeah, I'm all heart. That sounds good. I don't know who Reynolds and Kevin are, so there you go. The next interesting Indian cryptid to mention is the crocotta. Now, what is a crocotta? You get them in India, but you get them in Ethiopia as well. And it's kind of wolf or dog-like, but the size of a small horse. It has a head similar to a hyena, but it has cloven hooves and a horse-like mane, a tail more like a lion, apparently, and it ranges in color from orangish yellow to brownish black, which may have either stripes or spots, so very large. And the interesting thing that is said about it is it's very possible that a creature like that, but a normal version in that regard, it's quite possible that creature could have existed. What about animal? Well, we're going to talk about that again. We did mention it briefly with wolf weres and werewolves, but they do. And in many ways, the Naga is in fact that, animal shifting into human, because they are Naga, not humans. The Kitsune is the fox. You're talking about the Selkie. The Selkie is indeed an animal that becomes a human by shedding their skin. You are totally correct in that. So yes, you get animal shifters as much as you get people shifters. Now, this giant creature may have existed in a way, but the supernatural or paranormal version says that it's able to mimic human speech and uses this ability to lure victims by pretending to be someone in trouble. It's said to be very resilient, but it is able to be harmed by normal weapons. In the Indian accounts, it turned up as something. Now, just to give you an idea, the Romans were in India, and India traded with them. And according to Roman history, the Indian Crocota appeared in Roman arenas in combat. And it's mentioned by a number of Roman historians, an Indian species that was introduced that is truly frightening for its size and ferocity. So apparently this is a real thing that may well have existed. Maybe a proto-version of hyena in that regard. But it said that their eyes were actually gems, and if you got your hands on one, they had magical properties. So another interesting Indian creature. Then, of course, you have the cynocephaly. And here maybe this is halfway between both of what you originally said. A fairy can turn into a human. What kind of fairy? Because you get a number of varieties of fairies. Remember that you have the little fluttery-winged varieties who are actually really horrible. They come from Welsh mythology. They're part of the Mabinogion. And no, they do not feast on flowers and nectar. They feast on blood. Tinkerbell was nasty. But then, of course, you get the other varieties like the Tuatha De Danann, who are human-sized or taller, in fact. And they appear to be very, very beautiful humans. They may be able to pass as humans using their illusions as well. So there are different types of fairies in different types of ways. But a cynocephaly is neither human nor animal, and you find them mentioned all over the world. But basically, imagine a werewolf that is stuck in that one form. It can't change. So a human body with a dog's head in this case. Cynocephaly literally means dog's head. And according to the stories of Europe, India, and China, these were a tribe of people that lived in the wild lands west of Tibet and north of Persia, so around Iran. But they were spoken of and known, apparently, by Indians, as well as other countries, and the stories all seem to tie together in much the same way. They were considered to be not as civilized as humans, much more basic, a race of people who were considered mostly to be monsters, and indeed were wiped out by people because of their lesser race. And that's why there are no more left today. So it seems a bit unkind, but nevertheless, there are no more sightings of these creatures today, simply because they were considered brutal and monstrous and had to be wiped out. Now, it seems that different people just knew them as existing and put them in their histories. Was it real? Dunno. Was Bigfoot real? Now, the other interesting thing is the Abarimon, which is another race of humanoids from the Himalayan areas, which look very much like ordinary humans, except their feet are different and in some way might be said to be going backwards to assist them in the climbing of mountains in that regard. Backwards feet. They live alongside animals and are vicious and are able to run at great speed. They are absolutely savage, and they were found in a valley particular to an area around Mount Imaus in the Himalayan mountains. And it says that they couldn't breathe the air lower down because the valley is very, very high. This valley's air was a special quality which made it so that they never left the valley, which is probably a good thing if they were that vicious. Why did they stay there? What were they? This isn't clear. But more than one group mention they exist, including Indians. So maybe they did. The Nagin, yes, the Indian-shaped. We did mention the Naga and the varying kinds, the snake-shaped shifters. The two greatest of the shapeshifters of India are, of course, the tiger shifters and the snake shifters. And the snake shifters, of course, are very much holy and good in Indian mythology, which is a far cry from the werewolves of Europe that are considered bad. The Nagin would be the female version, and the Naga are the male version. And of course the Naga Khan are the royalty from there. So there are quite a few things out there that are worthy of consideration in that regard. Many of them connected to water. Now, it's the Indian ones that are most of interest to us tonight. But there are hundreds of different strange shapes, demons and things. Look, if you read the old writings, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, there is no doubt that you will come across all sorts of things, some of which are not really different beings, but different shapes of the same being in that regard. So, yeah, we've got that. Yes, I wonder about that. Can a mermaid turn into a human? Endless Thoughts says a mermaid can turn into a human. And I know in a lot of modern stories they can. But it's not so clear if they really can. Because even in the original tale of The Little Mermaid, she couldn't do it on her own. She had to have the assistance of the witch to actually change her. And many cultures speak of mermaids in varying forms, but not that they can change. So can a mermaid change? I suppose it depends in that regard. I don't know. What I do know, however, is that Endless Thoughts is guilty of making me hungry, because I particularly do like chilies. And the idea of the Naga dish is very appealing to me. It's made with the Naga King chili, which is one of the hottest chilies naturally occurring in the world. That sounds absolutely delicious. A good spicy, meaty stew served on rice. Usually the meat is smoked, which is pretty cool. That will add a lot more flavor to it. So yeah, I'm good for that. Naga food. Maybe, of course, that's what Naga like to eat. I don't know. It's a good question. But it's certainly an interesting one. And I rather do enjoy the idea. So, we have many shapeshifters around the world, and we will, of course, go and look at others. Endless thoughts. Tomorrow night, what do you say we do the Nordic shapeshifters? And we will look at the Berserk and the Alfhednar and the others of shapeshifter, the Huldra, and more. I think that will be a definite good choice to consider, which are not at all like the Indian ones, some of which are good, some of which are neutral by and large. Certainly we know that up that way your Selkie are spoken of not only in Scottish, British and Welsh mythology, but even in Nordic mythology as well. So they absolutely do have quite a range. But of the sea shapeshifters, by and large, I'm not sure that mermaids can turn into humans at all. Though Daryl Hannah did, which may or may not be cool. And, well, okay, the problem with the gods is I don't think they count. Though they are quite capable of shape-shifting, because they're not people in that sense. So Loki is a god, not a human and not an animal. But yes, absolutely, Loki was well known to change, and did, between genders and as well as shapes or forms. He's the father of Sleipnir because he turned into a female horse and then gave birth to Sleipnir, which became Odin's horse. So yeah, there's a lot of shape-shifting that does go on in that regard, but I think we must be strict and say it only truly counts as a shapeshifter if it is either a normal human or animal rather than a god. The Naga gained their divinity through varying means, so they count, but they are, of course, an animal that happens to be able to transform into a person, rather than a person that transforms into an animal, so it's the other way round. Whereas your weird tigers are people that can become tigers, and the Rakasha are neither people nor animals, though they are able to change their shape. But they're not exactly divine either. Not really sure. And they might be Sri Lankan, which is tough on Sri Lankans, I suppose, in that regard. But nevertheless, absolutely. So we shall do that. We shall do the Nordic shapeshifters tomorrow night. And see how that goes. And hopefully you will join me back again and you will enjoy it all. 10 o'clock South African time, so that's GMT plus 2. So we are currently doing shapeshifters around the world. And as I say, we will look to the north. But until then, we are done for now with India. I'm sure we will return for other things in other times. There's always interesting stuff to go. Saturday night, yes. Or are you going to be out? And see you tomorrow indeed then. But let us end as we always end. because after all, it matters. Or in 20 hours, absolutely. So I will see you then. Sleep well, sleep deep, sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open. And perhaps keep that holy symbol near at hand just in case, because you never know. Of all those things out there that may go bump in the night, be careful that they don't go bump for you. Good night.